major steps that everyone can take.
Do you think it's negative in the course of daily conversation for someone to say, so I met this black woman today, I met this white guy today? Those are different people groups. Is that negative to say that?
I don't think it is. If it's descriptive about the person and not being used in a negative, derogatory way, I don't see how naming someone's race is a negative inherently. I am a black woman. I hope you see that I'm a black woman. And I wouldn't be offended if you said, oh yes, Kira Banks, the black woman who's professor at St. Louis University. That's who I am. But oftentimes we, I think, hesitate to name race because we think someone might mean we are racist, think we're racist, or it might mean that we mean something about that, right? If we say it, then they'll think that we're racist people.
Right.
But I think that comes from a place of fear. And that not naming race doesn't do us really any good, and that naming race doesn't necessarily mean that you're trying to be hurtful.
A female pilot might say, I just wish I would get to the day where somebody would say I'm a great pilot, not that I'm a female pilot.
Well, and I think that has to do with the fact that in our society, because female pilots are so scarce, I mean, really, such a small percentage of pilots are female pilots. I actually was on a plane that had 2 female pilots, and so I did some research about what the likelihood of that was, and the likelihood of meeting a female pilot was like 1 in several thousands, right? And so for me, I think it's important to recognize that when we have that kind of, oh, I just wish I could just be a professor rather than the black female professor, right? Some of that is speaking to the inequities that are real in the professorate. Black professors are 2% of all professors.
So, Dr. Banks, you have taught a class in the psychology of racism. What would give you courage to stand up for something that you believe is right and nobody else is doing it? What would be your source of courage in that situation?
I mean, actually, I draw a lot of courage from watching the young people that have been really pivotal in the Black Lives Matter movement over the past year. And so there are times when within my workplace, within my spheres, I think, gosh, I could make a stink about this, or I could say something, should I or should I not? And I really, honestly, I think about the fact that there were young people that had the courage to say this is not okay in a very public way. And I know for some it's very controversial, but had those young people not stood up in the streets of St. Louis, I don't think we would be talking about Charleston, South Carolina in the same way. I don't think we'd be connecting the dots for much of the incidents that have happened, whether it was Tamir Rice or